Joining me now, look who's here, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. First, this story, should there be age limits for politicians? It's good to see you, Governor, because everybody was pained to see Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell freeze again at a press conference. Second time in a month. What do you think?
I don't think it's about age. Chuck Grassley's 89. He still does push-ups and runs several miles a day. So it's not age. Look at Clint Eastwood. He's in his 90s, still directing and writing and acting in movies. But it's about capacity. It's about ability to function. It was painful to watch Mitch McConnell freeze up for the third time here since his fall this summer. Now, he may be medically okay. That's really a decision for his doctors. But at some point, all of us have to decide, are we capable of still presenting our very best? And when we're being funded by the taxpayers, it's not just a matter of, gee, our company might ask us to step aside. It's that we have an obligation to the taxpayers to step aside when we can't do our job. And let me make this quick point. We require airline pilots to leave the cockpit at age 65 in this country, when many of them are, quite frankly, at their peak of performance, and they have 30,000 hours or more of flying experience, and far better to be in the cockpit than somebody who just got out of flight school and might have 100 hours. But we force them to get out. Why? Because we say that we're afraid they may not be able to perform. Maybe it's time we look at that for people who are in office, and if they can't do their jobs, whether it's Fetterman, Feinstein, McConnell, Joe Biden, doesn't matter what party, maybe it's time to say, gotta go.
You know, Jimmy Carter recently, a few years ago, said, I hope there's an age limit. He said he could not have handled the presidency at age 80, but look at what Democrat lawmakers like Dean Phillips are saying. They're calling for term limits where you have former aide to Bill Clinton, Keith Boykin, saying this is elder abuse, but it's different from term limits, and it's different about age limits to what you're saying, right? It's about capacity.
Yeah, and I'm for term limits. I don't think anybody ought to get a job for life. I don't think there should be congressional pensions, period. They ought to get Social Security, and that's it. And they should have a limit on how long they can serve. Then go home and live under the laws they pass for the rest of us to live under. But ultimately, there is a decision that has to be made, and it should be made by their families and ultimately by the voters. But this is, again, it's painful to see this. I appreciate Mitch McConnell's long service and some of the really excellent things he's done. But when I see this, I'm thinking, you know, either take a leave of absence or call it a day.
You know, Governor, voters and Americans are concerned about the direction of the country, right? We've got multiple polls saying 7 out of 10 thinks the U.S. is on the wrong track. So who is going to lead the nation into prosperity and security and safety? We have this bombshells from a new biography by Franklin Foer saying that President Biden basically is angrily complaining to family and friends behind the scenes that his White House staff, quote, treats him like a toddler, and they often have to walk back false claims that Biden makes in public. That makes him angry. Plus, he's really upset and angry about the media coverage of his botched exit out of Afghanistan. What do you say, Governor?
Well, if he hadn't botched the exit out of Afghanistan, maybe people wouldn't complain about it. And he wouldn't be treated like a toddler if he didn't behave and talk like one. I've got a 2-year-old grandson, and sometimes he makes more sense than Joe Biden does. And Joe's reading off a teleprompter. Poor little Teddy, he doesn't even have a teleprompter, but he gets his point across. So, you know, for Joe to blow up because people are leading him on and off the stage, the reason they're doing it is because he doesn't know how to get on and off the stage without somebody leading him.
Yeah, I mean, the book says he's resenting his aides for creating the impression that they have to clean up after his messes, like saying things like, you know, Putin's got to go. He's saying things like, was John F. Kennedy ever treated like that? You know, let's get your reaction to White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. She's hitting back against a reporter asking about Biden's light schedule. Watch this.
The Guardian has excerpts today saying the president has told aides in private that he felt tired, and that explains why there are so few events before 10 a.m. We've had some brunch lids in recent weeks as well. So my question is that
so you think we've had those lit because of this excerpt?
Not because of the excerpt. The book is suggesting the president tells aides he's tired.
But that's in the excerpt, right?
Yeah, and that's why there have been so few public events before 10 a.m.
I mean, that's a ridiculous assumption to make.
What do you think, Governor? Final word.
Not a ridiculous assumption at all. When he doesn't hardly show up until 10, maybe sometimes he gets up at the crack of noon, and by 2 he's worn out and calls it a day. Of course, it's reasonable to ask those questions, and they ought to keep asking them.
Got it. Governor Huckabee, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back on again soon.